Okay, I think I'm live this time. That was so weird. So I'm just gonna wait a second for people to come back in, and I will just tell you guys what happened. So as soon as I clicked to start the stream, it ended it right away for some reason. I didn't click end or anything. It was just so weird. It just kicked me right out. My internet was fine. Everything was fine, but for just some reason, as soon as I clicked go, it was like, nope, we're done. So I just restarted the stream, and hopefully people can make their way over here. But as you guys saw by the title of this, we're going to be doing this cute Christmas ball today, and I thought it would be fun to do it with watercolor pencils, and then maybe go on top with some stuff. So I have like these little glitters, embossing glitters that I was kind of playing around with. So I might do some kind of little design on top. Good morning, Shadow. Good morning, EB, and good morning, Beth. Thank you guys for coming back. I really appreciate it, and I am very sorry about that. But we're gonna get going. Live streams can be stressful sometimes. I don't know what is going on, but alrighty. So I'm just gonna jump right in, and we're not gonna waste any more time. So I used this Salmon 130. I think it used to be called Light Flesh from the Albrecht Durer Polychromos, and I used that to do my outline here. And then I just used graphite to do this golden part here because I am going to do that sort of more golden. So that's what I did. So I am going to grab my Scarlet Red 118, and these are my watercolor pencils from Faber Castell that I'm using. And I want to make sure that I'm leaving these spots here a little bit lighter for some highlights. So I'm going to use this color to sort of go around. And if you guys have any questions for me while we're doing this, then please let me know. We had a bunch of people here at the beginning of the other stream, and I feel really bad. I don't know what happened. It just decided that it was done as soon as I said go. So I'm doing like a light to medium pressure for this. And then as I get that highlight area like blocked out, I'm going to go back and just do sort of a light pressure a little more towards the middle of it. But I do want to make sure that I leave some light area there, because we can always go back and add more pencil in if we need to. And I'm going to get this color down pretty good around it. So how's everyone's weekend going so far? It is the weekend before Christmas. Has everyone got everything done, all their shopping, and they can just relax for the next weekend, or are you going to be rushing? And I'm going to do the same thing around this highlight as well. Now I do have this line art available for my patrons, but you can of course take the reference photo and create your own line art. And just to let you guys know, I won't be doing a live stream on YouTube next weekend because it is Christmas, and I will be away. We're going away hopefully to see my in-laws next weekend. And then the weekend after, it's another holiday, so I won't be doing a live stream this coming Sunday or the next Sunday. But I will be doing live streams on Tuesday on Patreon for my patrons. So we'll still have those live streams. And we're doing a pastel kingfisher one for this upcoming Tuesday. That's what my patrons voted for. Okay, I'm going to take this and also go around the area underneath of the gold part here. So this is still the 118 Scarlet Red. And I might even go back and just add a little bit more in the middle down here. I'm just feeling like I need to add just a little bit more. Good morning, Lisa. Yes, everything's good with me. How's your weekend going so far? Oh, Brianna, nice to see you back. Thank you. I tried to put a link in the other live stream, and then after this one, I'll go ahead and delete that one because it was like 5 seconds of, I don't know what happened. It just kicked me out. Oh, live is awesome. But at least I fixed the internet issue. So after the last live stream where I was having internet issues because it was honestly just a little bit windy out, a little bit of rain, my husband and I went to Best Buy and we got like an internet connector thing to go in my studio here. So basically it just connects directly to my laptop, so I get the internet first, and anybody else on it, they should have the issues, not me. So that's nice. I'm also going to get some of this color on the sides here and a little bit down here as well. Brianna says, oh, it's okay. You have helped me so much. Oh, I'm so glad to hear that. Thank you, Brianna. I really appreciate that. That's my goal with this channel, is just to bring information, to help you guys. You know, I'm not the most amazing artist out there, but I can get it done. And so it's sort of my goal to just show people that anybody can do it. You don't have to have a background in art. I certainly don't. I just picked up pencils and went, I want to do that. How can I do that? I'm going to teach myself to do it. And now, you know, I try to bring that information to you guys as well. Shadow says, I'm trying to follow along, except I'm just going to color a sphere. Oh, that's fine. You can totally color a sphere. And maybe your sphere has like the same kind of lighting as this ball does. So you can do it, you know, in whatever way you want. That's kind of a cool idea to do, though. And when I'm using the watercolor pencils like this, I want to make sure I'm getting enough pigment down so that when I blend them out, they're not too translucent. But my goal here is to keep that watercolor look to it. So I don't want to put too much pigment down either, and then it looks like colored pencils, because if you keep layering up over top of it, then you can get sort of a colored pencil look, but I want to keep it as loose as possible while still retaining the brightness of them. Let me just see her for a second. Brianna says, we upgraded to a bigger router and it's helped wonders. Okay, so that's something I could keep in mind too. Shadow says, when you sharpen your watercolor pencils, do you save the color core? No, I don't. But that's kind of an interesting idea. And maybe I should. Let me know, does anybody else do that? Do you save your like pencil shavings from your watercolor pencils? I've never really thought to do that. So that's kind of interesting. Good morning, Anita. Nice to see you here. She says, question, does the direction and stroke length matter when you use watercolor pencils? I would say with watercolor pencils, not as much as with colored pencils. I still try to keep everything in little ovals, but as you can see, I'm kind of going like, you know, quick and scribbling, but I'm trying to make sure everything's overlapped. Watercolor pencils will blend out a lot easier and nicer than colored pencils will. So it's not like you'll get those lines like you would with colored pencils, because this will just all blend out. However, if I just do like some streakiness like this, then it's not going to blend out as nicely as if I have like these oval areas working for me, if that makes sense. So I hope that helps. Good morning, Francisco, from Barcelona, Spain. Wow, good morning. You are quite a ways from me. Beautiful sunny day here to enjoy winter scenes, also to paint at home. nice topic you have chosen, and I'll try it as I did with the bench by the lake. Oh, wonderful. I'm so glad to hear that. That's awesome. Just trying to keep up with chat, and I do apologize if I miss any of your messages because I don't want to, you know, pause for too long while I'm reading messages. But if you have a question specifically for me, just make sure to put question or Q, like a capital Q or something, in your comment, just so I make sure I can see it. Let me just look real quick here. EB's working on a project. And shadows, I bought watercolor palette box to save the core. Not sure if it will be a hassle or not. Yeah, I'm not sure. That's interesting. Let me know how it goes. Okay, so I'm going to grab this 223 deep red. It's just a little bit deeper and brighter of a red than this one. So I'm going to start getting this around some of these areas that I've already put the other color down. And I do want to overlap this a bit with these colors. So this is just going to help start getting some of those darks in there. Do you blend with water or solvent? For watercolor pencils, I blend with water. For colored pencils, I blend with solvent. So it just depends which one I'm working with. And honestly, you could use colored pencils to do this, this ornament as well. That would work too. So it's not like you have to use colored pencils. And if you had the polychromos, the fun thing with those is the colors match exactly these pencils. So you could totally use the polychromos and you would just use the exact same colors and you would get a fairly similar result. Now, of course, they both blend differently. So whereas this will be a little more translucent, polychromos pencils are a little bit more translucent than the Prismacolor as well. So if you're looking for that sort of watercolory texture feel, but all you have is those, then that'll work okay too. So I'm kind of putting this color down a little bit everywhere else where I haven't already. But we're going to go in and build up some of our darks with some other colors as well. So I don't want to completely cover the tooth of the paper. And the nice thing with these, once we blend out with the water, similarly if we were blending with OMS with colored pencils, you don't have to go too hard, so you don't have to really worry about ruining the tooth of the paper. Brianna says, okay, thanks. This sounds weird, but I love these videos and watching you use the products. Oh, thank you so much, Brianna. I really, really appreciate that. And that makes me happy because, you know, even if like one person can learn something from my videos, that's totally worth it to me. And just so you guys know, I've started doing tutorials over on Patreon as well. So it'll be every Tuesday. I do another live stream just for Patreons. But I also put out bonus videos going a little more in depth. So like this one on Tuesday, we're doing a kingfisher in pastels. And so I've done like a color picking video as well to go along with it. So I show you in depth exactly why I choose the colors that I choose, how I go about doing it, stuff like that. So on my Patreon, it's going to be a little more in depth like that. But these are still like fun tutorials that you guys can follow along with here on YouTube as well. Because I want to, you know, also make sure I'm giving good free content as well. Okay, so I think that's where I like that one. So that was the 223. And I'm going to grab alizarin crimson, which is 226. And this is a little bit more pinky of a red. So I sort of want to start getting this in almost in the same areas that I put that last color, because I want to, with the red and the pink of this, it'll kind of like brighten this ball up a little bit. So that's my goal. So I'm going to sort of overlap everything again with this color. Now the reference photo that I chose, the reds aren't quite as bright as the reds that I've chosen here. But the fun thing, you know, with art and with choosing reference photos, you can choose, you know, whatever colors that you feel. So I was feeling a nice bright red ball. That just feels very Christmassy to me. But of course, you know, you can choose whatever colors you want. So if you want to do this as a blue ball, you know, then just pick some blue colors that look nice to you. Or you could do it any color, really. Oh, good morning, Ash. Nice to see you. How's your weekend going so far? Now I'm lightly glazing this color over that other color that we've put down, because I don't want one to overpower the other. I want them to blend together nicely. And I'm hoping this will give me like a nice brightness to the ball here. So I'm going to get the colors down for the ball, and then I'll go up and do the ribbon. And then we'll probably blend everything out together. Anita says, question, on your Patreon channel, do you primarily provide instruction in watercolor medium or other? So typically my major mediums that I use are watercolor, pastel, and colored pencil. But I also will branch off and do watercolor pencil. I've done charcoal. I really like charcoal, so that's another one that I would like to make more of a main medium on my channel. So you guys can expect tutorials like that. And on YouTube, I kind of just do whatever I'm feeling. But over on Patreon, I always put up a poll before, and I give you guys at least a couple of choices, and I say, like this last one, I said, did you want to do this deer in watercolor or this kingfisher in pastels? And so the majority was the kingfisher in pastels. So that's sort of how I do it, and I try to just mix it up and give you guys options. But you can always leave a comment on any of the videos over there, and let's say you want a specific medium or something, I'll make sure to do it, because you're paying for it, you know. So this is a dark red 225. So I hope that answers your question, Anita. And I'm going to get this color sort of in this area and a little bit in these areas right here. So where we've left, I want to make sure I'm leaving these bright areas. So I don't want to hit those areas too much. And this has got a little bit of a purpley brown undertone to it. So it's going to be really nice for our dark areas, hopefully. And Patreon's a monthly subscription, so let's say you sign up for 1 month and then you feel like it's not for you, you can cancel it at any time. And if you sign up and decide you want to cancel within a couple of days, like I would give you your money back, because that's just like not fair. If you just decide that it's just not for you, that's totally fine, but you still get to keep your membership for that month, because I don't want somebody to pay for it and feel they're not getting like value out of it. But I'll have, you know, a new live stream for you guys every Tuesday. And like I said, I want to do a little more advanced stuff. So going into why I'm choosing things, why I'm doing things a little bit more. So hopefully that'll help you guys have a little bit more understanding and be able to do it on your own as well. Anita says, yes, thank you. You're very welcome. I'm going to get some of this color up here too. So I'm keeping my hand back quite a bit because I don't want to end up pushing too hard. I'm just sort of wanting to glaze this color over right now. And underneath the rim of the bulb, there is like a little dark area here too. So I want to make sure I get this color in here too to create that shadow effect. And I want to bring this color a little bit down in the middle too, but again, making sure I don't go too much into those highlight areas. And a little down here. Okay, so I think what I'm going to do is blend this out, see how that blend is looking, and then we'll go up and work on that. And I actually forgot to get some water, so just give me a second here. Alrighty. So I'm going to use my size 10 silver black velvet brush. These are my favorite brushes to use. Brianna says, what size is this? So this card is a 5x7. And that's my hand just for reference. So this is a 5x7. So this would be just slightly smaller than a 5x7. Now, when I'm using watercolor pencils, I want to make sure that I don't have too much water on my brush. So I'm going to dab it off onto a piece of paper towel on the side. And I'm going to start in my light areas and start blending here first. And then I'm going to wipe off, start blending here if I need to add some water, and dab off. And then I'm just going to start sort of blending around everything. And I'm trying to keep my round edge while I'm doing this. And every time you see me take the brush over to the right side, I'm just dabbing it off. You could use a water brush for this as well. And then I'm just going to come and fix some of these little highlight areas here. Oops. Just going to grab some paper towel there or some Kleenex If you go outside of the sides, that's fine. And I apologize if I'm not looking at chat right now, just because I do want to get this blended out before it dries too much. Because we have a little bit of time to play with it, but not too much time. So see, I just dab off and I'm wiping some of this pigment off now. And I'm trying to keep it in that circular motion. And again, if I go outside, just scrub that up a little bit. And I just want to get rid of this harsh edge here, like that. And every time I dab it off, I'm just wiping off whatever pigment I would have picked up with my brush. There, and I think I'm going to leave that to dry like that. I'm just going to fix up some of these edges real quick, and then I will check in with chat in just a second. I do apologize, but you only have so long to play with it. Okay, and then I'm just going to get this lighter red area up here as well. Now I don't have a lot of water on my brush at all, because if I had too much right now, then when I touch the darker red that we've already blended out, it'll start to bloom out like watercolor would. So I have very little water on my brush right now, just enough to blend it out. And then I think I'll go back in and do one more layer once it's dried, just to get our darkest darks back in there. But I kind of like the nice like blend that we've got going on. So something like that. So I'm going to rinse that off really well. And then I'm just going to check chat real quick before we carry on. Anita says, this is great. I have watercolor pencils, but I didn't know how to use them. Oh, perfect. I'm so glad this is going to help you. So we'll go back, do another layer, fix this up a little bit, but that's sort of a base layer. And I probably could have done like our lights, blended it out, then went back and did some darks, but I wanted to see how it would all look together. Oh, crafting with EB. Oh, hello, Stephanie. EB says, my dad's surgery went well, but my poor mom got sick. Oh, her diabetes was out of control and her pump stopped working. I'm so sorry to hear that. Oh no, I hope, you know, she's in my prayers and I hope everything is well with her. Brianna says, I don't like watercolor, but I might try the pencils. This seems more controlled. Yeah, watercolor pencils are a little bit more controlled. And the nice thing I like about these pencils, the Albrecht Durs, is once it dries and you go on top with another layer, I find if you're controlled enough with your water, that bottom layer won't lift. It sort of almost, I don't want to say it's like ink and it like sets in the paper, but a little bit. It doesn't lift as easily as other watercolor pencils, I find, so that's why I like these. They're really easy to layer up with. Just checking to see if there's any more questions, and we're just gonna continue on, and I think everything is good. All right, so I'm gonna start up in the bow, and what I'm gonna do this time, I think I'm just gonna do my lighter colors, blend them out, then we'll go back and do our darks. I think that's gonna work a little bit better. So I'm going in with that Scarlet 118 color right now. And I'm gonna start here in the ribbon. And I'm gonna get this color about a third of the way up the ribbon. Shadow says, what paper am I using? So this is the Strathmore 500 series hot pressed paper. And this is one of my favorites. You could use the cold press one as well. With watercolor pencils, you can really use hot pressed or cold pressed because they blend out so nicely. So if you like the texture of a cold pressed paper, you could certainly do that. So I'm going around these highlight areas, but again, I want to save a little bit of white space as I'm doing it. So these blend out just as nice on cold pressed paper as they do hot pressed paper. So it just depends what your preference is. But if you're going on top with any dry pencils at all, like let's say you wanted to use colored pencils on top of these, or if you wanted to go in with the dry pencils themselves on top, then I would probably choose a smoother paper like a hot pressed. Oh, you're very welcome, Shadow. Should I say Shadow Facts? Gotta move that jar out of the way. Oh, you're very welcome. So again, like you can see, these blend out very nicely. So I'm being a little messy, but not too messy with them. Teresa says, I love the Strathmore Ready Cut. I like Arches better, but this paper is leaps and bounds better than other papers at the price. Absolutely, and that's what this is. It's the Ready Cut 500 series one. It's really becoming one of my favorites since I started using it, and I like both the hot pressed and the cold pressed. And I've used the cold pressed for watercolor as well, and it stands up pretty nicely. Like, I'm pretty impressed with it. And I like that they come cut in like either 5x7s or 8x10s. That's what I've seen mostly. So they're convenient sizes because then you don't have to worry about cutting it down or cutting a sheet. Like, it's just you do the painting and you're good to go. You can frame it right away or whatever. So that's kind of cool. Brianna says, what's the difference between cold pressed and hot pressed paper? So cold pressed just has a little bit more texture to it. So it's got more bumps to it, I find. And I don't know if the sizing is any different on the paper, but I just find it takes a lot of water better than hot pressed does. And hot pressed is a little bit more smoother. So you can see here, you don't see any bumps in it. And maybe if you want, at the end of the stream, if you're still here, Brianna, and you remind me, I'll go grab 2 sheets of watercolor, like a hot press and a cold press, and just try to zoom in and show you the difference. But basically the hot press is very smooth, so when you blend things out, you're not going to get like texturedness to it. Also, if you're using colored pencils and you don't want like this kind of rough texture, then I would use a hot press type paper or a smoother paper. But honestly, I would say play around with both and then just see which one you like better, because some people prefer the cold press and they like the texture of the cold press even with the colored pencils. So it kind of just depends what you prefer. But the Strathmore hot press and cold pressed, I honestly don't find there's that much of a difference. The Strathmore cold pressed is still not as toothy. So I'm going to jump right into my alizarin crimson 226, and I'm going to use this color next instead of the 225. So I feel like I probably don't need that color, but we'll see. Shadow says he has a vegan hot pressed paper on his wish list. What hot pressed paper is that? I would love to know who makes vegan hot pressed paper. And Brianna says, okay, that will be great. Okay, perfect. So just remind me after if you want that. So I'm just going to push a little bit harder here, just outlining this part of the bow. And then I'm going to fill in the top and the bottom part. And there's a little bit of shadow right here on the bottom of this bow, so I'm going to start putting some alizarin crimson in there. And I'll probably go back in with that darker color afterwards. And actually, I might go back in with that 118 color. So this was the Scarlet Red 118. And I'm just going to extend these a little bit bigger. Some of these areas just cover a little bit more where I'm not going to use that other color. And then I think if I overlap this with the alizarin crimson, I'll get sort of that same effect that I was looking for. And I always try to use the least amount of colors as possible. So even while I'm working on a piece, sometimes I change it up and change my mind. And, oh, I forgot this little area here. So you just never know until you start working. You might like a different color, decide you want that instead, or you never know. So I'm going to go ahead and line these areas as well too, just so I can make sure I get some really nice sharp edges. And then I'm just going to fill in with the alizarin crimson, but I want to leave those highlight areas. And then we'll go back and we'll put our darks on last, because I think the dark parts just blended out a little too much. Fabriano, okay. Is it the extra hot pressed white, whatever really long name, Fabriano? And I'm going to leave these areas here because that's where our dark is going to go. So I think I'm going to leave that. And again, I'm overlapping this color with the other color. So they'll blend nicely, and then that'll give us that middle tone that I'm looking forward to. Naomi is like me, as the colors, a little colors as possible. I like to focus on the painting coloring. Yeah. So I don't want to get caught up too much in like what colors to use or this or that. So I try to pick the least amount of colors, and if I can reuse colors or blend colors together to create another color, I will try to do that. It's just easier. And then I also find when you do that, it creates a little bit more harmony within your piece because you're reusing the same colors in different areas. So I find that kind of helps overall too. And another nice thing with the watercolor pencils is you really don't have to have your pencils too sharp because you're blending them out with water. So I will use them quite dull too. And as you can see, this is still quite dull, but because I'm rotating it as I use it, I still get a little tip on it. So I'm still able to get some lines, like fairly thin lines here. So that's another little tip there. I don't remember the full name. Yeah. EB's going to lurk, no problem. You lurk right away. I know you've got your stream to work on later. And if you guys aren't aware, EB has Crafting with EB here, my moderator, she has a channel on YouTube and she does art stuff, but she also streams on Twitch, and she streams every Friday, well, most Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. And she'll be streaming around 2 o'clock my time today, so that'd be about in 2 hours. She'll be streaming on Twitch. And let me know what you're doing today on your stream, EB. I'd love to know because I always try to catch her streams afterwards. So I'm trying to watch like where most of the dark areas in the reference photo is, and I'm trying to get those in with this alizarin crimson. But I will go back and punch them up a little bit more because I really like focusing on my contrast in my artwork as well. I find that's one thing that'll help your art look more realistic rather than just the colors that you're picking. It really depends on your contrast. So are your darks dark enough? Are your lights light enough? I find that helps a huge amount. So sometimes I really like to push the contrast depending what my goals are for the piece. Again, I'm going to line here. And here, and lining it like this just helps to make sure that I get sort of a crisp edge when I'm blending it out. And I always love answering your guys' questions, so if you have any more, please be sure to ask me. It's always really fun answering your questions, because sometimes it's not things that I would think to say while I'm doing it, or, you know, sometimes I don't think of all the things. So when somebody asks, you know, I'm sure other people are wondering too, or have the same question. So it's nice for everyone. And how many of you are following along today, or are you doing your own thing, or are you just relaxing and watching and enjoying? I hope you're enjoying. I know Shadow said he was working on a sphere today, so that's really cool. How did you get into art and then YouTube? That's a really good question. And I will answer that while I'm blending this out. Do I want to Actually, maybe I'll work on the gold part and then we'll blend it all out together. So I'm going to grab this cream 102. Now, gold isn't necessarily, and I will answer your question in just a second, Brianna. Gold necessarily isn't really gold, you know, or yellow. Like there's not a lot of yellows in there. You're going to have like some grays, some browns, even maybe some black, depending how much contrast is in a gold. But I'm going to start with this cream just as a base here. And I started art because I was actually interested in art, and I've always like kind of drawn, but not to really create something unique like my own piece. And I really liked coloring books. So I was really into coloring books, and I decided that I just wanted my stuff to look a little bit more realistic. And one of my goals was I have 2 Yorkies, and I wanted to be able to do their pet portrait. So my goal was to sort of learn how to use colored pencils and to be able to do their pet portrait. So I would watch YouTube videos, I would, you know, practice. I would watch other artists on YouTube. I even joined a couple of Patreons, and that really helped because, you know, I could actually see what they're doing in real time. So I find that really helped me, and just doing it myself. I like to just jump in and do it. And I will experiment. And if it doesn't work out, well, that's fine because I've learned whatever technique I tried didn't work. So I'm very much of just let's jump in, let's try it. Like this is what I think I want to do, so I'm just going to grab the stuff and do it. That's kind of my personality, and I learn by doing it. So that's sort of how I started. And then I started YouTube because I was watching YouTubers like Alexis Cassandra Art and other YouTubers, and I thought, you know, if they can do it, maybe I could try doing it. And I didn't know how my channel was going to go or anything, but I started doing a watercolor Christmas card series last year, and I actually really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed doing the tutorial part of YouTube, so that's sort of how I got into it. I'm grabbing the Warm Gray 3 here, 272, and I'm going to start working. So this would be like my middle area here, so I want to work on either side of the middle area, and then on the other areas I'm just going to pick one side to work on, so like a shadow area. And I don't want to cover all of the cream color that I put down, but I want to start creating some depth within it. And there's actually sort of like a line that comes across here at the top of these, so I'm going to get that in. But I hope that answers your question, Brianna. So I started like, you know, in coloring books, and then I just wanted to take it a little bit further, really, and see what I could do there, and that's how I got into it. And I'm actually just going to grab real quick this Nougat color, 178. And these darker areas coming down here, I'm just going to get, you know what? Yeah, no, I'm going to take this Nougat color right now and do this because it's quite dark in here. And I just want to make sure I'm preserving these dark spots. And this is going to make it a little bit easier for me to know which side of them my shadow is going to go on. But I'm also going to grab this 225 dark red, and I'm going to go over top of the Nougat too, because there would be a little bit of red showing under here, and then we can always darken that up if we need to. There. So I'm going to go back with that Warm Gray 3, 272. EB says, I'm going to color today, but it depends on how my back is. I'm going to try to go live for a little bit. Oh no, what happened to your back? Did I miss that? And you're very welcome, Brianna. So again, I'm just putting this gray in, just starting to build these shadows up. And I'm going to take this maybe just over halfway in here. And so I'm looking where the shadows are, so it goes from, so it would start shadowing on our other sides. And again on this side as well. And then our other side here. And I'm making sure to leave some of that light cream color too. And I'm going to take this a little bit up here into the hoop area and start creating some shadows under our bow. EB pulled a muscle, but I need to keep moving, not sit for too long. Oh no, I'm so sorry to hear that. Oh, that's awful. Okay. And I'm also going to start creating a little bit of shadow on the sides here. And this is all building up to our gold look. So this is all going to help our gold look. And a little bit just on the top. Now I've taped my paper down so I can't really turn it around, so I'm trying to turn my hand around, but if you guys find it easier just to shift your paper around, go ahead and do that. Usually takes 2 weeks for me to get better. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. So I've got this green gold 268, and this is a really nice color too to get that gold color. It says green gold, but it's sort of a little bit more on the green side, and I find there is a little bit of green in gold. So I'm just going to lightly glaze over some of this area here. I don't want to put too much down in the middle spot right here. But over here, sort of about halfway on, I'm going to get this color down. And then over here as well. Now this one's pretty covered most of this area. And then I'm going to do the same going the other way. And what the gray underneath does is just give us a little bit more depth, and it sort of mutes the colors down just a little bit so it's not so bright, and that's going to help us get like that goldeny, rusty look. And I'm just going to line the outsides there. And then I'm going to take this color up here too and bring it not quite all the way into the middle, but about, you know, a third each way. And I hope you guys can start seeing the colors building up. And then I'm going to take this color where I put that gray as well. Maybe bring it down just a little bit more than the gray. Okay. Now I'm going to take my raw umber, which is 180. And I'm going to kind of do the same thing, but I'm going to keep this a little more towards the outside here. So I'm going to just do a little line on the outside and here as well. So I'm sort of shadowing just the bottom half of this. And then I'm going to keep this just to the edge of everything too. And then we'll blend this out, and if we've got to go a little bit darker, we can do that. But I think this will give us a little bit of a nice goldeny look. And again on the sides here, so again, not covering completely the other color. And I'm going to take this color sort of down where we put that gray line. Just create a tiny bit of shadowing right under here. There. So I think I like how that's looking. And we'll go ahead and blend everything again. And I'm just going to double check chat before I start blending. Brianna says this is coming along really nicely. Oh, thank you so much, Brianna. I really appreciate that. I'm going to go down to my size 8 silver black velvet. And again, I'm just going to do the exact same thing. So I'm going to dip in, wipe it off onto my, I've just got like a little cloth here, and I just dab it off onto the cloth. So I don't have too much water while I'm blending out. And what I'm probably going to do is I'll blend the goldeny area first. Now this is quite a small area, but as you can see with my size 8 silver black velvet, I can get quite a nice fine point on it. So if you've got to go down to a smaller sized brush to get a smaller point, then go ahead and do that. But again, I want to make sure I dab off any excess. And I'm just going to blend, and I'm going to blend light to dark as best I can. And not having too much water on my brush. It's going to let the pigments blend into the paper, but not move around too much. I'm trying not to cover too much of the paper so you guys can still see. And I'm going to go ahead and blend this line as well. And if the colors move around a little bit, that's okay, because that just kind of adds to the watercolory look, I find. Oh yes, if you guys could like and make sure you're subscribed, of course you get more awesome content like this. And if you guys know anybody that would like, you know, this video, then make sure you do share to them. Really helps people find my channel and my videos, and I really appreciate it. So I'm just wiping off most of the pigment, and I'm just going to go up and create a little stripe here just to make sure I'm keeping the light areas in there. And that contrast, what I talked about before, the contrast between the light and the dark is going to help make this look gold, even though we didn't use a gold. Again, I'm just wiping pigment, picking it up, wiping it, just to get that nice line there, and then dabbing off any excess water. Okay, so I'm going to let that part go ahead and dry, and we'll do this, and then I'll come back and do those little red lines. So I'm going to start here and make sure my brush is fairly dry. But when I say dry, I don't mean like dry like we're going to dry brush. You still want water on there, but I don't want it to be like dripping off, if that makes sense. So I want enough water that I can blend the pigment nicely, but not enough so that the water's like slushing around, sloughing around, I don't know. And I may have to go over time just a little bit because I did start late because of technical difficulties. So we'll go until we get this done because I do want to add maybe some fun like embossing stuff on top. We'll see. We'll see how far we get. And you guys can leave that part out, or you can, you know, go ahead and have some fun and add some fun designs or something on top. Oh, thank you. EB says she's loving the bows so far. Wonderful. Lisa, question. What do you mean by embossing? Okay, so I've got some like embossing powders here, and I've got some embossing fluid. And when you put the fluid down and then you put the powder on top, you use a heat tool, and it sort of like ingrains it into whatever you've put it onto. And you can see the ones that I have here are really nice and sparkly. And I'm thinking I want to use either this red one or maybe the silver one or the snow. So I've got snow, opaque bling, sparkling snow, gold, silver, ruby, and royal blue. So if you guys have any suggestions of which one I should use after, let me know, because I'm leaning towards either the sparkling snow or the ruby. And I just want to fix this little spot here, so I'm being very mindful of how much water I have on my brush. But again, I like a bit of that patchiness that you get too, because it really helps the watercolor feel. I think I'm going to practice drawing and coloring ribbons. You should. They're so fun. They're so fun, and they're really honestly easy to do. Because a ribbon can curve like any which way, so your highlights can change. So they don't have to be, you know, the exact same as mine. And depending what lighting, like, you know, you can have so much fun doing ribbons. Yes, makes sense. The heat tool melts the plastic embossing powder. It's a lovely way to add detail. Yes, absolutely. I quite enjoy doing it. I did some cards where I did some embossing over top of them last year, and I really liked how it turned out, so that was sort of the inspiration for this idea here. Now again, I'm going to use that lifting technique to make sure I keep that highlight here, and if I need to add a little bit of water. Shadow says he's stamped images with embossing ink and powder before. Yep. And that's what I did on a couple of my cards last year. I used some stamps, and I used that with like a watercolor background. It's really fun. Oh, Shadow's working on a Christmas carousel in Procreate. Ooh, Brianna is. That's really fun. She says, thanks, I bought some realistic pencil brushes and I'm pleased so far. I like using Procreate as a portable sketch pad. I use Procreate a lot too. That's what I use most of the time to do my line art. When I'm doing the digital line art for the Patreons, that's what I will use. Procreate's a really fun program though, and you can do a lot with it. And even for somebody like me who's not a good digital artist at all, I can, get away with some stuff in Procreate. It's got a pretty easy learning curve compared to like Photoshop, I find. So I'm just dabbing off and just sort of softening the highlight areas here, softening the edges. And I feel like I need to bring this one down just a little bit, so I'm just pushing the pigment down and away. And I might bring some pigment up into this one. I learned digital art in Illustrator and find Procreate much easier. Yeah, for me, Procreate's definitely much easier. Oops, I think I have just a little too much water on my brush there, so I'm going to get rid of that. And again, I just want to soften these edges. So I just go and I dab around the edges, get a little bit of water. Be careful with the amount of water that you're using, depending, how dry your paper is. And then I'll go over top and just make sure that highlight's there. Okay, so I think I like how this is turning out. So I think I just want to go in and add some of the darkest dark back in, and maybe a little bit down here as well. And I really like how the gold turned out. Oh, actually I need to go in and do just in between here. It probably got hit a little bit when we were blending everything else out. And I might need to add a little bit more in actually. Just so you get that hint of like red peeking through. Okay. So I'm just gonna get a drink real quick, check chat, and then I will dry this and we'll go and do our darks, and then we'll do the embossing stuff on top, and I think that'll be really fun. All right, so while I check chat, I'm gonna dry this. And I love this heat tool because it is low enough so that I can still chat away and you guys don't have to just sit here and watch me dry stuff. So Brianna says, oh, I got you. She said she learned digital, oh my gosh, I can't talk, digital art in Illustrator. Shadow says, I've got to go. Thank you for the tutorial. I will watch the replay. Bye everyone. No problem, Shadow. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. And thank you so much for joining. And the replay will always be available for you guys. Now, because we didn't use much water for this, it's not going to take much to dry it. Okay, so I think that's pretty good there. So I'm going to grab that 225 dark red, and I'm just going to start getting in some shadows. So maybe I'll do some up here, and I'm just going to start at the bow and work my way down, then we'll blend that out again. And I'm going to do just a little bit in the middle like this, and then I'll come down at the bottom under the bow here and get some of this shadow in. Carla says, I found you from a video search on watercolor graphite. Glad I discovered you for this tutorial. Oh, I'm so glad you did too. I remember doing that video. That's been a while ago. I'm going to get some of this color on the edge here. I don't want to pull it too far down because I don't want to cover that highlight. I'm going to get a little bit on the edge of this other bow just to create that hint that there is some shadowing going on, like one bow overlaps the other. And then a little bit down here. And again, a little bit on the outside here. And I have other tutorials using watercolor pencils as well, Carla. So I think I've got some like just edited regular video, real-time tutorials using them. And I've got another live stream for sure using them. And they're definitely a favorite medium of mine. So I'll definitely be doing more with them too. So I'm going to line just the outside of the bow, because there would be a little shadow here. And then I'm going to get this shadow area in. And this is one of our darkest dark areas. I might put a little bit of the alizarin crimson in there with it, but I just wanted to make sure I leave that spot so that I don't lose it. And a little bit down here, just a hint. And then again, where this part overlaps, I want to make sure that I get some of this color in. So it's going to come down like this and go like that. So I want to make sure I'm getting that shadow area in. then on this edge, now these shadows I'm trying to make a little bit curved just to show, you know, that everything's curving a little bit. And then I'll even do just a tiny shadow right down here, not a whole lot. And then I'm going to do the same on the other side here. And this comes down about like that. And this can be a little messier. This doesn't have to be perfect because we've already got that base layer down. So if it blends a little bit blotchier, it's okay. It's gonna show like the colors through underneath. Okay, and I am going to grab that alizarin crimson 226, and I'm just going to put a little bit with that darkest red. Just glazing over top a little bit. And if I feel like I need a little bit more, I think I just want a tiny bit more of this alizarin crimson right around in this area. I'm just going to glaze a little bit, just like that. And I'm going to go back to that 225 dark red. And I'm going to use this on these little areas here. And I'm going to get this starting from like under this little hole area on the sides and just a little bit right underneath. So we're, you know, again, creating those shadows, and these little details, like just these tiny little adjustments, is going to make everything pop so much more. And it's going to go from being, you know, somewhat realistic to more, because now we're getting some darker shadows in. And we're showing form because we've got some shadows underneath of things. So I'm still trying to leave that light area right there in the middle. I might bring a little bit more on this side. Okay, so then I'm going to start working on the shadows down here again. And I just want to darken it up a little bit. So I'm just trying to look at where those dark shadow areas on the ball are. And that's where I'm going to put this color. So I can see this color sort of here and here, and a little bit here and a little bit here. So that's where I'm going to put it, and then we'll go ahead and blend. Now, because we've got color already down underneath of this, and we're not necessarily blending everything together, you might want to grab another brush so that you can have like one damp brush and one blending brush. So like up here where we softened the edges, it would be a little bit easier to do that if you had two brushes. And I will demonstrate that. That way we can get a nice smooth blend without any harsh edges. And again, so where I put those light areas in the beginning, I'm really trying to be mindful of that. And I'm just going to go over this area, make sure I've got enough pigment down there. Okay, so I think I like that. So I'm going to go ahead, I've got my size 8 brush here, my size 10 brush, because I want to do some of these smaller areas up here as well. I'm going to use my size 8 brush as the main brush where I'm going to blend out the colors. And if I need to go in and soften some edges, I can use the size 10. So I want to make sure this has water on it, but I want to make sure that I'm dabbing as much water as I can off of it so that it's more of like a damp brush. And then again, I dab off a little bit with this, and I'm just going to start going in and blending. And where I get those harsh edges, I'm going to take this brush and then just soften them out so that there's not quite as defined of a start and stop edge. So that's what I'm going to do. So I keep both brushes in my hands and I just keep switching back and forth. And again, for this, because we're not using a lot of water, you do want to be fairly quick, but you have a little bit of time to play. And if you were doing a larger area, I would use like more water when I'm blending it out, just so I have more time to blend it nicer. Actually, I want to fix this. Just blend that a little bit better. And if I feel like I've picked too much water, I'm going to go ahead and rinse it and dab it really well again and just continue on. Now this can work with watercolor too, like the 2-brush method where you've got one where you're putting the color down and one where you're sort of like softening it out. And I just like to dab, wipe off, dab, wipe off. And again, I don't want to bring it too far into my highlights. And I haven't really had to dip back in for water on this brush. Oh, and I quite like how that's kind of softened out there already on its own. So sometimes you'll get a nice soft blend, just depends. And I just need to pick up a little bit more water there. So I hope you guys can see how just adding a little bit more dark in just really makes it pop a little bit more. Now down here around the bow, some of these are a little bit more defined shadows, so I might not blend them out as much as I would. I need a little bit more water, and again, just dabbing off. So I'm going to start out and then work in towards this shadow area. Like that. And then I'm going to do the same on this side because I put a little bit extra of that alizarin crimson down. And I'm just going to work into that shadow. And I'm going to soften this little edge here that I can see starting. Like that. Now some of these, depending how much pencil you've put down, you can pretty much just blend it out with just the one brush because there's not a lot of pencil down. If you put more pencil down, there's more pigment to blend out, so you might need to, you know, do a little bit more blending. Just need a little bit more water going on. I'm going to use this just to blend out here. All right, I'm going to rinse off, get some more water, and I'm just going to work my way down. Now again, here it's a little bit more defined right under this gold, so I'm not going to blend that out. but I do want to blend these side parts. Okay. So now I'm going to rinse these brushes really well, and because this is a bit bigger area, I'm going to switch. So I'm going to use my size 10 to like blend the color out, and I will use my size 8 to soften it out. So I'm just going to do a bit at a time to make sure I can blend it out fairly nicely. If I want to drag that color back down a little bit, I can. Oh, hi Heather, nice to see you here. How are you doing today? And I want to try to keep this area wet while I'm trying to blend it, just so it will blend a little bit easier for me. So again, I'm going to go in and just soften the edges. And then I want to make sure I'm bringing this area back. And I apologize if I'm not checking chat here for a minute. I just want to make sure I get this blended out nice and smooth. Actually, I think I'm going to bring this in just a little bit more. And I'm okay if not everything blends out super smooth, because I want to keep that watercolor feel to it. Heather says, I'm well. This is looking cool. The highlights are going to be beautiful. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Heather. I appreciate that. So I want to make sure I'm blending all that pigment out too. Then again, I'm switching to that size 8 and just blending when I need to, or softening. I guess I should say softening, because I just want to soften these edges. Okay, and I'm going to go and wet this area over here. And again, I'm making sure these edges stay nice and wet. And And I find just this color itself takes a little bit extra just to like dissolve the pigment. Every other color that I've used dissolves so much like easier. For whatever reason, I find this color just takes a little bit more effort. But if you're just, you know, going back and forth, you can get it blended out, no problem. And I will go back and check chat in just a second. Now I'm just dabbing with a fairly dry brush, just getting rid of like some harsh edges. And I'm really trying to be mindful that I'm keeping those little highlight areas, but I think I kind of like that. Oh, actually, as I said it, I just see a little spot where I want to go and just fix this harsh edge before it dries too much. There. I'm going to rinse these off really well, and then I will check chat again. So I'm going to dry this real quickly while I'm checking chat, and then we'll move on to the next step. Good morning, Andrea and Heather. Della, good morning. Nice to see you guys. How are you doing today? Zanti, good morning as well. Andrea says, I'm always amazed with how art can look so lifelike. You are really talented. Thank you for teaching us. Oh, you're so welcome. I'm so, that makes me so happy. Thank you. Heather says, sorry I was late getting here this morning. Which watercolor pencils did you use? These are my Faber Castell albrecht watercolor pencils. They are my absolute favorites. They lay down so nicely. They blend out so nicely, as you can see. I think that's probably going to be dry there. So I'm just going to give it a second to cool down, and then we will carry on. Is there a synthetic brush that you can recommend? My second favorite brush would probably be the Princeton Neptunes. I'm pretty darn sure these are synthetic. The only thing I don't really like about these is they don't hold as nice of a point. So this is a size 10 silver black velvet. This is a size 6 Princeton Neptune round. And look at the difference. Let me get this one wet, just so you can have a good comparison, and I will try to make a nice point on it. But I hope you guys can see the different in point there. So that's why even with a size 10 or a size 12 silver black velvet, I can get a lot of detail work done. I can get a lot of little pieces done. Now I know these are, I think they're squirrel hair and synthetic hair, but I think the Princeton Neptune is just synthetic. And please somebody correct me if I am wrong on that. But to me, I got the silver black velvets before like I really knew too much about synthetic versus not synthetic. And since I already have them, you know, I want to go ahead and use them. But to me, they are just hands down the best brushes that I have found personally so far. Yes. Okay, so what I think I want to do now is I've got some of this embossing powder here, and I've got some embossing fluid, and I thought it would be fun to do maybe the snowflakes with either this ruby red or this sparkling snow. And these are just powders here, and then you go on top with this embossing fluid. And I've got this really long, so if you guys have any suggestions, which colors that you like best, let me know. But I've got this really long Princeton Aspen brush, and I don't even know where I got this from, but it's got a really nice point, and it's not a brush that I would use for like watercolor or anything really. So I'm not worried if this ruins the brush. So, you know, use a brush if you're doing this that you're not too worried about ruining, but I would go ahead and rinse it out right after, just in case. Beth says, if I could just imagine the little squirrels getting haircuts. Yeah, and I would assume that's what it is, but again, I haven't looked into it too much, and so I don't want to comment too much and give wrong information, but I mean, I think squirrels' hair grows back, so I don't know why they wouldn't do that, but honestly, I don't know how it's made. Just picked up the 3-pack of the Silver Black Velvets to try out. Ooh, I think you will love them, Heather. Like, I think you're just going to love them. Andrea says, another good synthetic brush I started with was the Princeton Velvet Touch. Oh, they have long rounds. Amazing. Okay. Brianna says the snow. So the sparkling snow, this is also the regular snow. I was really looking at the ruby snow because I thought maybe the red would kind of sparkle on it nicely, but I also like the sparkling snow. So I'll see if anybody else says anything else. But Brianna, did you mean the snow or the sparkling snow? And I'm going to start putting down some of the embossing fluid, and I'm just going to go in and create some little snowflakes. So if we look at the reference picture, we've sort of got a snowflake here, and one in the middle, and some little ones. And what you could even do, because the embossing powder is very opaque, so it's going to cover up pencil if you want it. So you could go ahead and draw out your little snowflakes before you go on with the embossing fluid. The sparkling snow. Okay, I've got votes for the sparkling snow. Sparkling snow. Okay, I think that's what we'll go for then. So I'm just going to draw these out real quick. So when I'm drawing this out, I want to make sure that I'm curving all of my lines because this is a round ball. So we want to make sure that everything is nice and curved. So I'm going to start with my long middle point here, and then I'm going to curve the opposite way. And then I'm going to keep these middle ones a little bit shorter. So I'm sort of trying to curve everything. So can you guys see that? Let me grab a little piece of paper here just so you guys can see. So if I want to create a snowflake here, I'm going to go curved, 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 and curved. So I'm always sort of curving in the opposite directions. Now that could be a little bit shorter there, but just so that it looks like it's curving around the ball. Will all supplies be linked in the description later? I think, oh shoot, do I not have them linked in the description? Let me know if I don't, and yes, I will absolutely link them in the description for you. I tried to link them. Actually, I might not have linked the embossing powder or fluid because that was sort of like a last minute. I think this would be fun to do because I like to try new things. So I'm going to do another one right here. And these do not have to be anything fancy. And then maybe I'll do a couple of small ones coming here. And then maybe I'll make that a little bit longer. And then one, so I've got to curve this way because I'm going with the ball. And then one like this. And one like that. And then maybe I'll do two smaller ones on the sides here. So again, whatever way the ball's curving, I'm going to curve it that way. If we're doing it on this side, I'm going to curve it that way. I hope that makes sense for you guys. And then the two main ones I want to make a little bit longer, and then the middle ones a little bit shorter. And so the middle one follows the curve this way, one follows the curve the other way. I didn't see it. Okay, so I'll make sure I go ahead and link that afterwards. Thank you so much, Andrea, for pointing that out. And then another one maybe down here. So again, I'm going to go curve this way with the ball, and then the opposite way. And we'll bring this right to the edge so that it looks like it's going around the ball. And then I'm going to curve one this way, and then one this way. And then all I'm going to take is the embossing fluid. I almost called that the powder, the fluid. And at this point, I'm going to take my tape off the card because I am going to have to pick it up to tap off the powder afterwards. So I'm going to take that tape off. And actually, maybe I'll zoom out just a tiny little bit for you guys. Just a little bit here. And I'm going to have this. So I have this little tray here where I can put like tap off the embossing powder into. And it's got this little hole where I can like then tap it back into the container. Okay, so you guys wanted the sparkling snow. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to do the sparkling snow. And all I'm going to do is take this brush that I don't really care about, dip into the embossing fluid, and I want to wipe a little bit off just so that I don't have a huge glob on the end of it, or you're going to get like a pretty thick thing. But we'll do we'll test it here on this side. So again, I'm just following, maybe a little bit thicker than that. I'm just following the pencil lines that I already put down. And on Patreon, you guys have the liner with and without the snowflakes here. So if you guys want to leave this part out, you certainly can. Or if you want to go in with that dark red that we used, what was that? The dark red 225. You could probably even draw these out with that, and that would look nice on top. And you wouldn't have to blend it out if you don't want to. So I think I'm going to do one snowflake at a time just because I don't really know how quick this is going to dry. So I'm going to set that to the side, grab this sparkling powder, try to get some on my brush, and then I'm just going to sprinkle it right on top. And I want to make sure that I cover everything. Maybe I'll just sprinkle it like that. And I'm not worried about using a little bit more of it because, like I said, I'll put it into that dish and then I can get it back into the bottle. Okay. And I am going to have sparkles everywhere after this. Now, what I like to do, just to make sure I've got my areas covered, is I'll actually tap the card on the side like this, and I sort of lean it one way and lean it the other way, just to make sure that the powder gets everywhere. Then I tap it off really well. And then I'm going to go in with my heat tool. So for this, I wouldn't use a hair dryer because that's going to take a lot longer. You could if you wanted to, but I'm going to use this heat tool. And just a warning, this might be a little bit louder than my tool that I use to dry. So you might want to just mute it for a second and I'll give you like a thumbs up when we're good to go. But here's your warning. So this just heats it up enough so that it sets the embossing powder into the card. There. So that's our first little snowflake. So you can run your finger over it and it's not going to move because it's set into the card. So I'm just going to continue on and do the rest of them. And if you guys have any questions, then please let me know. Andrea says, I did, thank you. Oh, okay. I just wanted to see if you could play with a new medium. Yep. What is the heat gun called? Good question. It is the Celebrate It heat gun, and I'm pretty sure I got this from Michaels. I'm pretty sure I got that. It was in like their craft section in Michaels. And I really like already, I like how that that snowflake is turning out. So I think this was a good idea to try around. And I love trying different things, if you guys don't know by now. So I'm gonna make sure I go over just a little bit over the edges of the graphite because I see just a tiny bit poking through right there. So I'm gonna make sure that I go just a little further. Okay. And then again, I'm gonna put some on here. And I'm gonna get this little spot. And I just use my finger like this to tap it on. Okay. And be very careful when you pick it up so that it doesn't just go sideways. And again, I'm just tapping, and then I'm gonna just tap it all right off. And then warning, heat tool again. Thank you so much, Brianna. She says this painting has turned out lovely. So you guys can see the sparkles there. I just love it. This would be like a really fun, you could do a bunch of different cards like this and then emboss different things over top. So if you wanted to do like a tree, like we did a little tree scene in our last live stream, and you could like emboss, instead of doing the snow, maybe you could do some of the embossed snow like this, and that would look really pretty on top of that. So many fun things that you could do with this. Okay. The heat tool is amazing. I have 2 of them because I love it so much. It's so quiet. That one's actually not too bad, but the one that I actually use to dry is even more quiet. But I find it just doesn't have enough heat right away to emboss. Like, it takes a long time to do the embossing part. So that's why I like to have the 2 of them still. But if you do mostly embossing, then definitely like the heat tool. And it wasn't expensive at all. I want to say in Canada, Michaels, it was about $25 to $30. And I've had that one for a couple of years now, so it's definitely done me good. And that's what I used to dry all of my watercolor with too. I would use that to dry all of the watercolor paintings that I did. And the only reason I switched to the Ranger heat tool was just because it was so much quieter, like doing live streams when I have to, you know, heat something up. It's just a lot quieter, and then I can still talk and you guys can hear me on top of it. Beth says it's on Amazon. It's about $30 US. Yeah, so, and I might have had a coupon when I bought it at Michaels, so it may be a little bit more expensive at the, you know, than it was then, because I might have used a coupon, because I hate paying full price for anything. If you guys don't know by now, I am like, you know, if there's not a coupon for it, I probably don't need it. Oh, sorry, warning, heat tool. Oh, you were talking about the Ranger one. Okay. Gotcha. Yeah, that one is super quiet. I love that one. Absolutely love it. And it dries things really quickly too. Like, really impressed. Compared to like a hair dryer, it almost does just as good of a job. All right, we'll do this middle one next. If you Google it, there's a ton of scrapbooking sites that carry it also. Yeah, I actually found it off of Colorfully Optimistic's channel. Corey, she was using it and I was like, that is amazing. I must have it. Please tell me what it is. And she's got a link in her video descriptions, I believe. And I forget what place she gets it off of, but she does have like a link if you guys are interested, and she will get like a small commission of it. But yeah, I used her link to get it. And best investment yet, especially for YouTube tutorials, because it's just so darn quiet. All right, getting more of the sparkly stuff. And again, I find just tapping it moves it around like a little bit at a time and not too much, so that I can get it to spread nicely. But Andrea says, I had a hairdryer at first. I would just blow everything everywhere. Yeah, because it's just so powerful. Even on the low setting, I see the Ranger ones and was super happy. Oh, you found it from Lindsay the Frugal Crafter. Okay, that's interesting. Oh, warning, heat tool. Sorry guys, I'm not very good at this apparently. Okay, and we've got one more. So if anybody has any last minute questions for me before this tutorial ends, because we're just about done here. I think this is about as far as I want to take it. Then please let me know, and I'll make sure to answer them before I end the live. And just to let you guys know, I did mention at the beginning of the video, but there will be no live streams on YouTube next weekend because it's Christmas, or the weekend after because then it is another holiday. But I will have my Patreon streams on Tuesdays still. So again, I'm going to take some of that powder. I'm really liking this sparkling snow, so I'm really glad that you guys suggested this, because I was going to go with the red one if nobody suggested anything, and I really like this one now. See, and that's why I like getting your guys' input and feedback, because you always suggest something different than I'm thinking, and so I'm like, all right, let's try it, and then I usually end up liking it more than what my original plan was, so it's a win-win. right, I'm gonna get the cover on this before I knock that everywhere. And warning, I'm using the heat tool again. I will give you like a few seconds and go. Oh, bye, Andrea. Thank you so much for stopping by, and have a wonderful rest of your day and have a wonderful Christmas. There, so I really like that. I think this turned out really nicely. So let me know what you guys think. And yeah, but I'm pretty happy with how that turned out. Actually, maybe I can get it a little closer for you guys to see. Beth says, Naomi, have you seen the luster dusters that you can use embossing powder glitters to spritz on your pages? No, I've never seen that. This one actually comes with like a dabber on top, and that's what I did on this page here. I just dabbed it like that and then I embossed over top of it, but I've never seen a spritzer one, so that's kind of cool because that would give you almost like if you wanted like a snowy thing, it would just spritz it out. I suppose you could put it on a brush and then maybe like tap it off like that and see if you would get the same effect. But that's kind of cool. I'll have to look into a luster duster. Beth says it's beautiful. EB loves it. And Lisa says it really looks good. Oh, thank you guys. Thank you so much. So I'm very thankful for all of you joining me today. So again, no live streams the next 2 weekends, next 2 Sundays, but I will have like videos throughout the week. And I will keep the Patreon ones, of course, on Tuesdays. And we are starting a pastel one of a kingfisher. That's what the Patreons had voted for. And I've got a couple of videos coming out with that as well. So I'm doing a color picking. So I show you guys exactly why I pick certain colors and how I go about picking it and stuff. So that'll be coming out either later today or tomorrow before the stream on Tuesday. And that is over on Patreon. I believe the link is down in the description below. But I think that's it for today. So unless there's anything else real quick, I'm just going to get some water because I always realize at the end of the streams, I haven't drank hardly any water this whole time. Excuse me. Oh, thank you, Della. No problem. So I hope everyone has a wonderful Christmas and happy holidays and a happy New Year's as well. And I will be back the weekend after New Year's with the YouTube streams, the free YouTube streams. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. It really, really means a lot to me to have you guys here. Because if nobody showed up, why would I be doing it? And make sure you guys check out Crafting with EB as well. She has a channel on here on YouTube, and she also streams on Twitch. And if she's feeling up to it today, she'll be streaming in about 45 minutes over on Twitch. So I really encourage you guys to go and check her out. She always does really cool stuff. So she's either coloring, she does a lot of coloring, she'll do art, she does crafting. One of her last ones, she was doing mugs, making some mugs and stuff. So she's always doing different stuff on there. And she does stream every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So thank you guys, and I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. Have a wonderful rest of your weekend, everyone. Bye, guys.